Okay, so we are Okay, well, we are back and we are playing, well, let's see, we're playing, Steel Panthers today. So, hello viewers and welcome back to the stream. It looks like, well, I suppose it's not necessarily a good idea to do this, kind of on mountain time hours, seeing as how from looks of things, the only people who can really watch will probably be, people on the west, or east, or no, west coast today. But anyhow, I see some of you guys inside the viewers panel here. Chances are it takes some time to update, but as you can probably tell, we are playing Steel Panthers World War II. Specifically, the game's title is actually Win SP WW2, and this is just kind of because of how the game structure is well dealt with. So this is quite an old game, modernized of course to version 8.0 over here, which I believe is the latest version coming from like this game is actually updated yearly, so this year they saw them bump it up to 8.0. And I was actually given a copy of this, the CD version of this game, to kind of demonstrate, which is quite nice. It's a game that I have. It's actually a free game. You can download it on the site because the source code for the game is kind of open source like that. And what I wanted to pull off for you guys today was firstly the page on the game in particular. So Steel Panthers, it's a series by SSI Studios, which is way back, and the original game came out in 1995. Long story short, today we are playing the modern World War II game right here, originally released in 2005, but like I said, it's actually quite modern since that's updated repeatedly, though there is, as you can probably tell here, two branches for the game. Matrix Games has its own free version called SP World at War. That's also a World War II title. The only difference between these two are kind of their presentation. In my opinion, Win SP World War II here is a bit better than the other version, just simply because it's updated more frequently and because it also has the you know, like a couple of years back, I would call this a spin-off, but Win SP Modern Battle Tank, which covers practically everything after World War II. So you get your hypothetical, you know, Soviet invasions, East versus West, Korean, Vietnam, and even into modern stuff such as you know, M1 Bradley's, Abrams, stuff like that. Like real soon things. And like it says here, it actually covers up to 2020. So a recurring theme for this stream here, just before we begin, is that, you know what, it says it on the sidebar and it says it here. I encourage you guys to watch from the very start of the stream, just simply because, I mean, if this is not your first time seeing this game, this is, you know, from a game re-released in 2005, made in 1999, and therefore it is kind of dense, to say the least, kind of unintuitive if you're not used to kind of looking at it. But giving you guys a general rundown of what we have here is that we have a culmination of a few years worth of work, really. So I wanted to tab through some of these scenarios just before we begin, and I think it is suffice to say that there are a lot of them. There's just shy of 500 scenarios. There's, I believe, 15 campaigns, and some of these are quite big. Some of these, I believe, are like 20 missions, some of them 10. Overall, inside these missions, you control a campaign through a lot of battles, and you kind of chain them off. And notably, like taking a look at this one, this actually has a total of 68 missions, but I suppose you only play about 16 of them during the thing. And the neatest part of this game is actually this thing, the World War II long campaign setup. So this will actually set you up with an entire pre-generated campaign. It's not procedurally generated, but I mean the maps and all will be done up and it'll follow World War II. So say for example, if you put the start date in September 1939, you'll literally start off in Poland and work your way across, and it supports up to 200 battles to be fought with your campaign. So you can quite literally take your company of troops, if you will. I don't actually want to start the campaign, but I'll show you guys how it works. You can quite literally take, say for example, like if you really wanted to be thick, I suppose, like say for example one of these company of units. Let's just start the battle for the demonstration's sake. But we can literally start a battle like this, and we can continue a single match through 200 battles on some of these absolutely enormous maps. And like the one thing about this game is that all of it is customizable. You can quite literally change how well you want your troops to be good at searching, hitting, and lots of stuff. You can change the map size and things like that for the campaigns as well. And yeah, overall, I mean, it makes for a very good old-fashioned war game. The main thing is that we are playing the CD version of it today. So if you download the free version, you won't have all the features that I'll show you guys right now. But the caveat being is that you're quite literally getting all of the content except for a few minor, albeit I stress very very useful things for the money's sake. Either way, like being honest, it's 40 bucks. It's kind of expensive for a 2005 game, but if you enjoyed this video, I encourage you guys to check it out. So we will be playing two scenarios today. We'll be playing Organized Chaos and Stone over here, so German assault and a French assault taking place very early inside World War II, just to give you guys a bit of a example for kind of how the game plays out. So with that said, let us begin. Organized Chaos. So this is kind of the start game for the scenarios. We can take a look at the briefings if we'd like, but I would rather talk about the in-game gameplay here. So kind of what the game does is that it runs you through a lot of these historical battles. Of course, some of these can be generated, some of these can be preset, and in general, what you're looking at here is a wonderful, hex-based map that somebody has designed. Of course, in your custom games, you can make them, or you can make them yourself, or you can let the game generate you them. And these maps are absolutely fantastic. They range from here, in say for example Poland, it'll generate you a Stalingrad, real city, like dense map, stuff like desert dunes to desert cities to just in general all kinds of stuff. And not to mention that it also covers the Pacific front, which is kind of one thing that I missed. So each and every single troop inside this game has this lovely panel which will tell you all about what type of unit it is. You can grab even more information. It is a tank heavy game, or I believe the actual game it's based on is a tank heavy game, although for the sake of the game here, it handles infantry quite well. But the main thing is that if you do play on with a lot of armored units, you can definitely take a look at a whole lot of detail about what we have there. So let's talk a little bit about, I'm going to turn the flags off here if I can here, but let's talk a little bit about the units here and what we have. So we are playing as Nazi Germany. They've gone with the historical route in terms of the flags. They don't like cheap out on that. It's the full deal there. I won't say any more. But anyhow, today it is September 1939, and the war has just begun. Germans are making a push into into Poland, and we are to mount an assault on a Polish fortified hill right over here, filled with Polish troops. And to our goal here, we have a squad, or I should say a company, not a squad, of infantry to do so. So it's a game that you can employ real-world tactics to. It's or to some extent, I should say, because there are a few things that I don't necessarily agree with. And one of the cool things about this game is that it simulates your command lineups. It simulates a lot of stuff. I suppose we'll just introduce them as is, but let's take a look at our troops here, which is effectively everything inside the background through the use of this handy dandy list. So you always have a commander unit. If you lose this in the campaign, your campaign is effectively over. Typically it's just a bunch of dudes that sit on the map that doesn't do very much. But the interesting thing begins once we take a look at the headquarters structure. So we'll always have our commander, but afterwards we have a company HQ and we have platoon HQs and things like that. Each one of these things are led by a leader inside the campaign. Once again, these are different because they do level up and they can get picked off by their enemy, but they have a different weapon. They have some different stats and commanding different units. Typically they make sense. An infantry commander is obviously good at leading infantry. He's probably terrible at leading something else, but that is the command hierarchy of your campaign. And the neat thing about it is that inside the campaign, and I do mention that a lot because a lot of stuff is inside the campaigns, You can start off with a company, you can grow it into a battalion, you can grow it possibly into a division, but then your games are really, really long. So that said, probably not the best idea. But I'll skip to the point, talk a little bit about what we're doing today. So we have our battle group HQ, that's always a given. So we have a company of infantry. How do I know that? Because we have a single company HQ. Company HQ here leads everything down until the next company HQ. So therefore we have one company, and we have a couple of platoons of infantry, and I think a couple of platoons of scouts and artillery supporting us today. So one of the handy dandy features of the CD pack that we have here to make command and control a lot simpler is that if I zoom in the map, and I suppose some of you guys can already read it, but all of my troops are nice and labeled. So if you look in the bottom corner of the screen here, all this text, somebody please do tell me whether or not the text in the bottom here is readable, because if it isn't, it will be extremely difficult to actually like follow along with what I'm doing. And other things, again, I encourage you guys to watch from the beginning of the video, just because if you haven't played this, you know, a lot of the stuff I will be doing doesn't make sense very early on. But anyhow, one of the neat things about the CD pack is that it'll label, say for example, B0 here as a company commander, C0 here as a platoon commander, and once we highlight over C0, we can take a look at the platoon elements he commands. And the other thing is that I think there's a nice undo button, but it looks like somebody spotted us, so we can't undo that movement, but that's fine. Right, so we got a whole bunch of infantry down here. We got some scout teams up ahead, and we have some machine guns on the hill. Our objectives is to take this hill area within 12 turns. It is currently turn 1, and visibility is 31. So visibility of 10 is typically what you're looking for in where visibility of 50 is kind of what you're looking for in terms of a nice clear day. But, and I can turn off the hex grid if, you know, some people complain about that. So, okay, so the text is visible, that is good, we've confirmed that. So can somebody try 720p? I mean, typically I watch videos in 720p. Anyhow, so what we're going to try to do here is that we're going to try to simulate a night attack onto this position. How do I know it's night? Visibility is less than 50. So let's try to make some moves here and to get our guys pressing forwards. So this was, I would say, back in the days of old-fashioned wargaming, where a lot of like what you did have to be like the order of your commands make a big difference. And you know, like being honest, it's not something that I terribly agree with, but it's something that I suppose we'll have to deal with. So what do I mean when I say that is kind of this effect. So these guys, D1 over here, he moved 2 tiles towards the right, and that makes his movement speed at 4 miles per hour. This guy over here, the platoon leader, if I move him 1 step forwards, he is now moving at 6 miles per hour. The idea is that you want to try to control, you know, just in general, how you move your army, such that it simulates like say, like pseudo simulates a real battlefield, in the sense that, you know, if you get your guys moving really fast, I mean, vehicles can try to avoid tank shots or, you know, like cannon fire like that. Infantry, the faster you move them, the more vulnerable they are, and that's just kind of the general like play between it. So it's so it's kind of mechanically heavy. Okay, so 720p is good. So we've gotten our troops, we moved them forwards, it's in the middle of the night. I can grab one of my guys, right click around, which will turn their facing, and turning their facing will make it such that I can take a look at different parts of the map. This is all of the area that this unit can see, and all I'm trying to do is to grab eyes on this this fortification. So the main thing is that this is a very, very good like war game, provided that you can get through some of the artificialness of it, in the sense that, like, you know, there's a visibility counter, it doesn't tell you that it's night. So like this looks like a daylight assault, right? But in reality it's in the middle of the night, and that makes things a lot harder to tell than what they would be otherwise. And okay, so we've actually taken our first casualty there. So yeah, like I said, a lot of things will appear on this bottom menu, and that's kind of where you have to watch. So again, I'm going to say it one more time, a lot of this stuff will make makes sense if you back it out and track it throughout. So let's get our assault commenced now that we have our MG set up on top of this hill, and we have our infantry down inside this field. So this sets up for a perfect situation. We've got our scouts at the very edges of this little forest here, providing us line of sight. Once I see some of our guys getting shot, I can get the scouts, click on them to get them to try to reveal anything. Technically, how the scouting system is supposed to work is that if you have a tank, you can change the facing of the tank, and if it's like a stug, it actually costs movement points to change the facing. Given that, you know, this is with infantry, it costs nothing, so I can, you know, do this quite frankly. But anyhow, we lost one guy from enemy MG fire, and luckily we've exposed a VZ-30 HMG from over here. Again, game's very fully realized. There is actually 3 HMGs set up over here. We've got 2 sets of MG-34s. We see one target. We're gonna buzz that down. So I believe I have disabled the effects for the game, so I'll turn them back on, animations as well, I think, and I'll show you guys what happens when you fire on an enemy. So our troops over here, it'll spray down the enemy with every single weapon that they have inside this menu here. And they, so they spray that down, and each and every single one of the shots deal damage in the form of suppression and in the form of actual casualties. And it's a fairly realistic game, so chances are is that, you know what, you do a lot of suppression damage, and you won't necessarily cause a lot of casualties. So I'll do that again. And all I'm trying to do is, if you take a look at the red ribbon on top, I can't point at it, or else if I move my mouse away here, it'll display something else. It says the name of the unit, it says they're pinned in and dug in, they're where they are, and because we pinned them down, that means they shouldn't be able to fire at us anymore, or I should rather say, if they do fire at us, they do reduced damage. So far so good. We're not taking very much damage from that. Our units here, they're still taking fire from the HMG, but they are not doing, or the HMG is not doing a lot of damage, which is exactly what I want. So now, all I want is to grab my forces, and I want to push them through here as fast as I can, get my infantry moving to assault. Some of you guys may have noticed that I set up my artillery rally so that they come right on top of them later on, so we'll just wait for that. The big blue button over here advances the game, the big red button closes the game. I use F2 and Y to confirm turn movements. It's just a faster way to do it. Probably should have disabled that feature. Typically what I do, I really don't know if you guys can hear me over the bullets, but typically I disable this long turn sequence just simply because it's very, very time consuming to kind of watch that flow through. So yeah, the animations, I mean, they do take a fair amount of time. So typically what I do is that I leave these settings off, and I might leave the message delay. And all I do is that I pop into this window, I take a look at how many casualties we took. It looks like the MG rallied and managed to pick off 2 of my guys in a squad of 12, which is not a big deal. What rallying does is that your commanders, from the platoon leader to the squad leader to everyone that's there, can try to rally a squad. Rallying a squad lowers the suppression by half, so if you press R, rallying fails, commander can't rally anymore. Idea is that if you have multiple commanders have multiple chances at rallying depending on their rallying stat, and therefore you can try to lower your collective suppression of your forces, given how well you keep your forces in cohesion. So typically I play the game like this, where it's like I just click on the target repeatedly in the interest of speed. So that said, I typically do leave these things off. I could leave, say for example, I think if I leave the message delay, it'll give us a few seconds before exiting out of any combat, so then we can get a fair look at what I'm doing here. The main thing is that later on, once you're dealing with a couple, 30 units and such like that, you really don't want to wait the couple of seconds for it to do its thing. So that's kind of why I have that like that. Anyhow, that machine gun is just going to rifle off some more shots. In the meantime, all my scouts here to take a look around. It is night again with a low visibility of 30 or so. So what I want my scouts to do is that if I take fire from something that I don't necessarily think is right around the corner, I will get them to look around and try to get some vision. So back in this time, the Polish squads at the time, though, they weren't necessarily well equipped, and the oddity with them is that they're really, really big. They're actually squads of 20 men, so they were, like, depending on how you look at it, platoons in themselves. The game tries to simulate that, and what it does is that it makes them really, really easy targets for you to try to pick off. And that said, I mean, it's very, very easy to score hits on them. Therefore, it is really, really easy to suppress them. So this is the artillery screen. As you may have noticed last turn, we had the artillery barrage come down onto these positions, and what I can do here is that I can order more artillery every turn onto these positions. I can shift artillery positions as well. If my commander had line of sight, he does a better job at firing. If they fire near that big one there, which is a firing point, a pre-designated point, they fire a little bit more accurately because they know that they will be shooting at that area in the long term. And what I've done here is that I've ordered a continuation for firing. What you do is you click on these guys, you click on fire, so that they fire in the same location as last time, and therefore it's not a new order for artillery, it's an old order, and they'll just continue bombarding that area. So we'll key that in as a turn, and what we want to do is we want that fire trade to continue to go back and forth. I've enabled blast radius circles, so you can take a look at kind of like, how well does artillery scatter out. And as you may have noticed here, the machine guns also trigger blast radius circles. So what that effectively says is that machine guns here generate a suppression in about, I believe, a 7 tile radius, or one tile in the center and it's the 6 tiles adjacent to it there. And it looks like they are they're making the right move here. They're trying to pick off my HMG inside the back and on top of the hill here. The thing's providing support for my fire down here, and it looks like they're doing quite a good job in pinning down this troop. And this troop has actually taken quite a lot of damage, which is fine. My artillery is continuing to drop in, continuing to take a look around, and these guys are back in their ready status, meaning that our guys trying to suppress them aren't doing that great of a job. And that's to be expected. If you have a single troop kind of out there and, well, intact, then it's very, very, or if only, let's say, for example, one troop is, taking fire, it's generally speaking a lot more difficult to break them than, say, the entire platoon being pinned. Because then you got an entire platoon pinned. Once your command fails to rally once, the rest of the squad is unable to rally, and that really helps you out a lot in the long run. So now that we've gotten that cleared, I'm going to turn off blast radiuses simply because a lot of the stuff slows down the game. Get my target, my artillery reacquainted, and all I want to do is to grab my guys, push them forwards, and I want to try to take those high ground objectives. So I'm clicking through here individually with my units so that when I move them forwards, so say for example, like they move at the slowest rate possible. Over here I've moved 1 tile, so my guys are moving at a rate of 2 kilometers, which is not very fast, but it does keep them under cover. Once one of my units takes fire, I'm actually going to move a different one so that if my enemies here decide to try to fire on us, they're going to have to fire at a different target. Currently they have about a 7% hit chance with their machine gun. If they keep firing at the same target, that's going to increase, which is something that I do not want. And again, all I want to do is just kind of crawl my guys forward if possible. We've got a lot of infantry over here, so I don't mind them taking some losses, and all I want to do is slow boat them forwards, and in the process, typically the scouts have a good optics value. So if we look over here, they have a decent vision value, I think, for infantry during this time. Anyhow, what they'll do is that they'll take a look around and they'll try to detect all of the Polish positions for us. So once we get that out of the way, our infantry can move forwards. You guys might have caught that. I did not. But because we moved our guys a little bit hastily over there, that's going to impact just how well they will be, how well they'll be hit by enemy fire. So it's rather unfortunate we lost 1 MG. That would have been really, really helpful if we had that constantly on the field. And they seem to have, actually a decent amount of infantry. They have about 100 infantry, or no, 80 infantry plus whatever the machine gun is worth up on top of that hill. So let's see whether or not we can try to break this by using artillery, generate a lot of suppression so that the guys can't fire back. Once they can't fire back, infantry presses around the hill, gets into close quarters fighting, takes them down, hopefully pushes them back all the way east on this map, as it would seem. So we shall see whether or not we can make that a reality. And again, I typically turn off the game's animations and delays in terms of messages, just simply because the turns go by much faster if we turn these off. So what the game is currently doing right now is that it's taking each and every single weapon inside a squad, and it is getting it to simulate fire on our guys. And that takes, each squad can have up to a maximum of 4 weapons, which takes a long time to simulate. So if I turn that off, that's going to make things a lot better. And I'm going to spray down their HMG. I want that to be so sprayed down with bad Polish morale. That machine gun's actually retreating. This unit's actually retreating. This unit and this unit is pinned. Spray down over here some more. Still pinned, spray down over here, retreating, spray down over here, pinned, and we're out of machine gun rounds, which is a shame, but this one should be back in action soon enough. And you can have multiple units on one tile. It's generally not recommended, because if that tile gets pummeled, chances are is that you're going to be suffering a lot of losses. So I think the artillery actually came down that turn. You won't see it, more so because, again, I have the animations and stuff disabled, and I think this is a good time to say once again, chances are is that a lot of this stuff, if you haven't played games like this or this exact game, it won't make a lot of sense to you. That is fine. I encourage you guys to watch the video from the very start so that you can get a finer appreciation of what we're doing here. So now that that's out of the way, let's get our guys moving forwards. This platoon, C2, I want them rallied up. Your game will try to rally your troops automatically at the start of turns. I want them moving, and I want them to join my forces here at the very... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I can redo that action. At the very basis of this hill slope, so that they have some more cover, especially once they're inside, or concealment, I should say, inside the field. And later on want them to charge up and to try to take the hill position. So try to get these squads to rally up. Some of these guys are rallying, some of them are not. So how it works is that the company commander will try to first rally a unit, then the platoon commander will try to rally the unit, then the platoon. Did I already say platoon? Or the squad leader tries to rally the unit. And if all of them fail, well, you're kind of done. If they don't, then you can just keep doing it. And the real penalty comes when you don't have enough squad leaders to do that effectively, or when all your squads are pinned, because then you got to get 4 rallies at the very most, or at the very least, to get your squads to do something useful. So there we go. Game is much faster. They're firing their guns at a breakneck speed. Simulations are going on. Bad thing is, all I'm doing here during these turns is that I'm just kind of watching the bottom ticker here, and I'm trying to look for casualties during the process here. And if nothing comes up perfect like that, that indicates that, we haven't taken that many casualties at the end of the day, which is very good for us. And again, start a new turn. I'm going to take a look at all of the troops here, try to figure out who is taking a lot of fire. And I just want one of these teams to be dedicated in solely suppressing that MG. We got a casualty on that side where we were able to tell that we had a casualty, where they had a casualty. 2 men are casualties there. They are routed. Sometimes it won't actually tell you. So that said, if it doesn't tell you, it makes it very difficult to figure out whether or not they are actually pinned or not. So this squad, both taking casualties. They're probably locked down. This squad over here routed automatically. They shouldn't be able to do anything, so it's only this clutter of 2. Let's well, we can try to bait out some fire here. I'm gonna get them to open up, and the machine gun opens up on this squad, so they know something is up here, and they have them in their sights. Looks like the commander actually took more suppression there than anyone else. So I want these guys to crawl out and to take a look around. They unfortunately had to pull back. And now we move this unit. This guy actually fired back, so that is quite interesting. And all I'm doing is that I just want my guys to get close to that hill. Get my infantry to move up here. Once they're at the basis of this hill, I want them to fire off whatever they can. Crawl at an advance of 2 miles per hour. 2 miles per hour is very, very slow. I think in kilometers it would be like 3 kilometers or something. It is like literally like a crawl forwards, which is exactly what we want. We want these guys to commence a assault, and all we want them to do is to just kind of amass and be sent forward. Scouts again, not that I think we've met anyone new, but I want to tap through them. I want to get them to confirm what they see, and what they see is still the same units, which is good. So again, tap through the mortars. If I okay, I'll show you guys this one this time. So with this mortar, what I did was I clicked on the name, it shows me where it had fired, and I clicked on fire actual rounds instead of smoke, and it did exactly just that. We can actually check how much ammo they have here. But instead of doing that, what we can do here is that we can click on a brand new tile. In this case, I'll click on the marker because it's slightly faster, and I can put down a new fire order, and I can get them to start to fire volleys of mortars on whatever they see there. So that's going to drop a fair amount of ammo on top of them in the next few turns, and in the meantime, all we had to focus about is just kind of making our way up this hill. And I think the game is on a pacing of, I believe, 3 minutes per turn. I think 50 meters or something like that per tile. So again, same process. These 2 units, I think I'll suppress with this machine gun. Once they take the first casualty, they are pretty ineffective. Well, they managed to suppress my machine gun there. So that's not very good. That is way, way off. So I'm going to cancel the mission, and I'm going to retarget that so that I can move it somewhere better. Right. So once that mortar drop comes in, we can then just kind of continue to work our way up this hill. Get some of these guys to fire off whatever they can. Get more units to move up. And all we want to do is to just try to get these troops up and along that hill. So they're going to take quite a large amount of suppression here, but that's fine. We might want them to change their spacing here slightly, but either way, same general process. Want them to move. Typically, if you move your troops, they shoot worse, but you know, they get closer to your enemy, which eventually makes up for it. And again, all we want to do is just try to overload what they have here in terms of suppression and that was a nice volley. We managed to get 3 volleys, a lot of like this is heavy infantry. They have mortar launchers with them, so that was quite nice onto the enemy. And we're going to try to rally some of these guys because we want every single troop here to ready up and to push across as soon as possible. It's a shame that we lost the second MG so early, because if we had that, the scenario would be a lot easier in this. Huh. I actually really like the what's it called, like they sold factional DLC for a short amount of time for Hearts of Iron 3. I thought that was kind of cool. I think they made a US DLC and a Germany DLC for Hearts of Iron 3 before. I don't know, either it just didn't sell well or they just kind of canceled it. Either way, yeah, they had something like that and I thought it was really cool, but they canceled that really early on, which is a shame because that would have been, yeah, I would have really liked that. Perfect, we got to resuppress their HMG. So again, what we want is the artillery should be coming down this turn. That's going to cover very, very closely to our troops, but that is fine because all we want to do is again get these guys moving across and push through those lines. So the minute they start taking casualties, And the minute that they start breaking through in advance of in terms of routing, we can get our infantry real close. We can get up and close with them, and that's kind of when we really start dealing damage. For intents and purposes, once you're down to 3 hexes, which again is about 100 meters, which should be 75 meters ish, that's kind of the kill zone with HMGs. That's kind of when they start to be really effective. We have a whole bunch of guys with rifles. In theory, 500 is kind of where we start to be effective, but like either way, rifles are kind of shitty. Either way, we'll get them to start trading rounds, and we'll get our guys to make a couple of presses up this hill. Try to get them to fire whatever we can. And once we get some of these guys up, we can race the rest of them. Because, I mean, your enemies, I consider this slightly an exploit, but your enemies only have 6 movements, or 6 reactionary fires at most. So if you have a tank or something, like, I think this is kind of cheap, but if you have a tank or something, you can get the tank to quite literally absorb all of the shots of, like, say, for example, or we're not a tank. I don't think infantry fires on a tank, but if you have, like an infantry unit in the back and you move it forwards, you can bait out so many defender reactionary shots that afterwards you get your 1 HMG troop to just, you know, move 1 tile forwards and spray the guy down. It's kind of cheap, but you know, it works out, right? So that's kind of that. Either way, our guys are really close up to there with these guys, so I think we're far away that the machine guns, our machine guns, don't do any friendly damage, which is quite nice. We managed to pin back this troop once again. Don't ever do this, but we'll step on the mines, because we want to get nice and personal into that 1 tile. Don't ever do this again. 1 tile range, so that we get the full effect of our units as weapons. And once you're kind of inside that 1 tile range, you just slaughter enemies. You get so many, you know, triple casualties on 1 3-minute phase. It is just amazing. Either way, we are starting to break through here. Unfortunately, it's a little bit later inside the game's turns. We have 9 turns to do this, or 12 turns to do this. We are on turn 9, and we are semi-close to the objectives, which is kind of bad. Because capping the objectives themselves will probably take a turn at the very least. Let's see whether or not scout team over here can bait out a couple of shots, or maybe not. What about you guys? Oh, perfect. We can get off a few rounds here. This troop is the last one pinned. Can you guys rally? E2 rallying would be perfect for us, because that brings us nice and close. Try to break out some reactionary fires, because they're either out of reactionary fires or they still have something to fight from. I'm going to double stack my units. It's a bad idea, because then both of these units can get shot by 1 fire, but it looks like it's fine. Everything up on top of that hill is routed, and again, we're dealing with pretty poor Polish troops, so some of these guys will be able to rally fast enough, some of them won't. Either way, this hilltop should be ours here. Spray down the rest, and time to get our guys to move in. Try to. So get them to exchange some fire here. Manage to get that guy to retreat. Get into 1 tile range where we can do a lot more damage. I think one of our mortar strikes came down just as we were charging up here, so it managed to pin down a lot of my troops. But that's fine. So yeah, some of the scenarios will give you extra time if you're close to the objectives. I think some of them won't, is the issue here. Either way, we have effectively won. So all guys are swarming the hill, the defenders are starting to pull back, and whatever we have here is starting to move up the sides. So overall, this is a done day. Yeah, so there we go. We can cap one of the victory points, and if you hover up over here on the victory points, it'll actually tell you what the values of them are. So this one's actually worth 100. It's the last little blib of the red-white ribbon over there. It tells us the hex number, the height, the density. In this case, it's a field, so it has a density value attributed to, well, you know, how dense is the crops, because it does make a pretty big difference. And next turn we'll be able to cap that. Next turn we'll be able to hopefully cap a couple of these. So it looks like we might be 1 victory point short just because of movement constraints here, which is like I think a downside to scenarios. Some of them have these very tight, rigid movement criteria or turn limits. So that said, once we finish this turn, we might not be able to cap everything, despite the fact that realistically this would have been a complete victory for us. These guys are going to retaliate, that's fine. Move through the trench, get our guys to put on fire on them, and you can probably tell the casualties are mounting up. Survivors there, disperse. Looks like, oh, actually they're still mounting some defense over here. Kind of rally that troop, kind of rally any of our forces, because none of our guys were looking over here. Polish HQ. Try to continue to push. And here is the moment of truth. Do we get an extra turn because we're so close to the objectives? Oh, we do. So there you go. We are on turn 13 out of 12. There. So we cap that over. We apparently take one more casualty because, yeah, this is another thing I'm not a huge fan of inside this game. For whatever reason, units, in my opinion, they lose morale too fast, and they rally too fast. So you get a lot of situations where these guys, they've already retreated from their principal positions, and they can still fire back. So it's really annoying because sometimes they can set up inside these like houses or one-story blocks, and they'll like you can push through them. They've already retreated, indicating that they've already broken, and nevertheless, like you still lose like 6 guys trying to take them out. But that was a done deal. So let's take a look at the battle screen. We suffer 43 losses, taking on a fortified position. So that's, yeah, you know, not bad actually. Compared to 76, this was a decisive victory. You have led your forces to a masterful completion of your designated mission. Enemy forces have suffered a severe setback to your sector of operation. Congratulations. So yeah, that is mission number 1 of the series. And now, be rest assured, we will do mission 2. But before that, I wanted to show you guys how the quick battle thing works here, because if I set this up right, I want to generate to you guys a pretty cool map here to show you just, you know, kind of what options the game gives you. So we'll bump up the map height to whatever the maximum is, and we're going to play as the Soviet Union. So hopefully, yeah, there you go, we get Stalingrad. And well, we're just going to start with 1 unit, and all I want to do is I really just want to take a look at the map here that it generates for you, which is quite neat. So this is like, yeah, quite a city-based map, very, very different than what you expect. And I think this is, yeah, this is city outskirts. It'll sometimes generate you city, Stalingrad city, in like, you know, innards. So taking a look at the map, very open outside of town, lots and lots of shelling from of course the constant bombardment over here. And taking a look at inside the city, would you look at that, you have an artificial city generated, you've got sitting streets. These buildings are technically supposed to be a composite of big buildings and small buildings and things like that. And overall, yeah, you have this nicely generated, very, very dense city, some outskirts. The further you get into town, the denser it gets. And yeah, this would have been like quite a difficult fighting position to break through, of course. And that's, you know, that's kind of the purpose of it. I think the small houses are like, this is obviously 1 city block, so it's supposed to represent, you know, a couple of big buildings, but they don't have the graphics for the big buildings, so they represent them like this. Is, I think, why they do, like, you know, a whole bunch of small buildings, because well, I mean, at the end of the day, it does the same job. It's buildings nevertheless. So yeah, very very cool thing that you can do with the game there. Anyhow, looks like we've already hit the time spot that I had wanted, but we'll do the second mission anyways. So on second thoughts, I'll show you guys the briefing for this. And oh yeah, so another thing is that with the CD version of the game, you can increase or decrease the font size, because again, it's an old game. This was made when monitors were like 800 by 600. So one of the big additions is making the font this size, which like, admittedly, it's still pretty small, but it's just the right size that it doesn't overpower the small menu here. So that is quite nice. Anyhow, It is May 15, 1940, as the German army divisions continued their advance towards the Sudan. The Grossdeutschland division found itself holding a hasty defensive line anchored on the village Stone. From here, GD was able to protect the left flank of the German drive. On the afternoon of the 15th, after having fought short a sharp engagement to secure the town, the GD were faced with a counterattack consisting of all the might of the French 145th, 245th, and 241 armored battalions. Germany's finest are not equipped to take these tanks, but reinforcements are on the way, but the situation is grim. Your mission as a French commander is to take the first wave of tanks available and seize the city. As the German commander, your mission is to hold the city and to prevent the slicing of the logistical tail of the German advance pressing forwards. So, like one of the oddities of this game is that some of the scenarios are completely, well, I don't read chat, but answer is yes. And anyhow, the scenario here can be played from both perspectives. You can actually set this onto like a play-by-email game with 2x2 players. Some of the scenarios, they're meant to be played from one side. Some of them can be played as both sides. Some of them are only meant to be played by two people. And the odd thing is that some of the scenarios are like really hard if you try to play them from one side or the other, because they're historical scenarios. I mean, one side like has like all chances to win, and the other one has a very slim chance to do so, which it kind of sucks. Anyhow, today we will be in this session we get to use some tanks. So we're to secure this town. We have a whole bunch of infantry and tanks up here, with the second wave following shortly. We've got 15 turns. It's still, I think, a night mission with visibility of 34. Let's get started. So tanks inside this game are, again, wonderfully represented here. So tanks have a weapon, they have some armor. If you play World of Tanks, you probably recognize some of these. And the neat thing is that there's an armor system inside the game. So tanks have armor on the bottom here, armor on the top. It says steel armor here, which might seem kind of redundant, but later on, your tanks will have different types of armor in the modern game, at least. So what I want here is I want the infantry to move forwards, take some fire. French infantry, not to follow the stereotype, but they are really bad at rallying. So we don't want them to get sprayed down too much, or else they'll fail rallies every single time. But what I want them to do so is to draw out the enemy fire from the enemy things over here, so that our tanks can advance and take them out once they get spotted. So one of the things that's shooting at us, if you are reading the yellow text, is a hidden anti-tank gun somewhere located over here. It's doing 4 units worth of penetration, which is actually 40 millimeters, which back in the day is actually quite a lot. The thing is that French tanks, by comparison, were actually pretty good compared to German tanks at the time. The only deficiency was kind of how they were organized in a very funky structure. Their entire plan consisted of infantry running behind the tanks. So yeah, they had a very World War I mentality, where it was not very fast, to say the least. Anyhow, a lot of our tanks here are very heavily armored. It'll take a good amount of shots, but they're not invincible from pack guns by far. But it'll take a good amount of shots before anything happens to them. All I want them to do in the meantime is I want them to put down a barrage of fire onto whatever we see. And the main thing here is just get the infantry to push forwards. Don't let them get caught out by tanks, or don't get them caught out by infantry, and that's pretty much it. So this is kind of where the CD add-ons really come into handy. When you have like a whole bunch of units like this, and you want them to keep some semblance of movement intact, it's really difficult to tell what unit is moving, where each and every single one of the units are moving. So yeah, this is a really handy dandy feature, and we want these guys to gradually stream through. So let's see what we can do to push through. And again, I won't be covering the basics of infantry combat or how the game is generally set up inside this video. We'll be focusing more so on tank-on-tank action. So therefore, again, if you are viewing this video from the break between missions or sometime during the first mission, I do encourage you to go back to watch through the entire thing, just simply because it's a complex game and like you can't really just kind of eyeball it. So from the looks of it, we managed to do a fair amount of damage to this infantry squad. It looks like our infantry squads started out where maybe we only killed one guy, but either way, they broke, so very, very good. Or no, they didn't break, they just decided to move out. It's fair enough, because all we want to do, again, is we want our guys to try to push forwards here for the best as we can. German reinforcements are coming over here, and we can take a look at what some of their guys streaming through. So they have a couple of Stug 3s, armor of 3 on the side, armor of 5 on the top, and a couple of these half-tracks bringing troops into the town. So what I want to do to try to match that is I want to grab some of our infantry, or not our infantry, our tanks, position them somewhere that they can counteract a movement down along that road, and I want these guys up here. I want them to take a look at that road, see what they can find, and I want them to start slugging at the tanks. So taking a look at our unit, we have this tank. It is armed with a 37mm cannon. We can see that it is armed with about 70 rounds of HE, about 30 rounds of AP, and we can take a look at a couple of stats here. It has an accuracy of 8 relative to other weapons, and a kill of 1, which does more stuff against infantry, but we can take a look at the penetration values here. It does 1 and 4, so 1 with HE, 4 with AP. So we can penetrate the side of this Stug tank, but we can't penetrate the front of it. Luckily, I don't think the Stug can penetrate the front of our armor as well. So we can just keep firing away at 10% accuracy. It's going to take some time before that thing disappears. But what I want to do is I want to start firing at the half-tracks back here. So we have about an 8% chance of hitting it each time. And I hit it with, I think, a machine gun at that time, which is kind of alright, not really. Ah, we found the pack gun. It's sitting on top of all, or it's sitting inside this tile. So that's kind of why they have extra defense there. But I think we did a good job. I didn't read the exact casualty count there, but our tanks were able to cause a decent amount that the gun crew managed to bail. So I'm pretty happy with that. Our tanks to crawl forwards here. I don't know if they have any infantry here, so I want the infantry to go up, bait out any fire from the enemy here, so we don't get caught off by surprise. And I just want our guys to keep fire on them. An oddity with the game is that if you bring your tanks up and they get surprised by enemy infantry, aka they get fired without the infantry being seen, they can commence a close assault, which means the guys get out of their trenches, they run up to the tank, climb on top of it, and try to shoot at it through the viewports, or with grenades being popped right through the top hatch, right? So like kind of what you see inside the movies. Either way, that's really, really bad, and that said, it is definitely worth our while to keep our guys away from those viewports. So there, our advance is in full motion. I want to see whether or not we have any artillery is the thing. So we do have an artillery battery, eh? That's good, because we want to drop some artillery on the center portion of town. Sure, that works. And we'll let that play through. Okay, so let's see what's happening. I think we caused a few casualties. Looks like there's an HMG covering this road, causing quite a lot of casualties for us, but that's fine. And we see some vehicles driving down along the road. They're getting closer to town. So that is fine and all. So it looks like we've determined that this road is definitely not a safe place to be on. So we'll get our infantry to bail out here. Luckily our platoon leaders are throwing smoke, so that'll try to cover our guys by a bit. And our infantry are pressing through here. Perfect. So we'll get the tanks to move up. This is open country, so I'm relatively certain there's no infantry hiding up here, but I'll get them to press up and to take a look around. So got our guys to just keep firing. Oh no, When you see the stars, it means there's either crew damage or vehicle damage. In this case, it looks like it took 2 of the crew down. Hero tank here manages to take down the pack gun, so I'm not too worried. Closest halt time, we get our guys to move right on through, and I think they're still in that tile. They took cover, so they disappeared from view. Tanks, bad vision and all. Main thing is that this is primarily a tank assault scenario, so we got our guys to really push through here. Once the infantry is out inside the open, they can take where they suffer more hits. And right over here, what I want to do is I want to try to pick off those juicy half tracks. 37% chance, 49% chance that time. Managed to pick off 1 half track. Good thing is, you kill the half track, you kill the people inside it, right? So we don't know what those half tracks are carrying, but I'm pretty sure they are entire squads of infantry, which we do not have the luxury of dealing with up close. So I'm just going to keep firing at them. And luckily, they are very ill-positioned to deal with this, so we can score out quite a few kills. Your troops do get bogged down by the terrain, so as some of you guys may have noticed, I didn't move my tanks through the rough terrain over here, the brownish terrain, simply because my tanks do have a chance of bogging down there. Yeah, not very good. Come on, we just need to do enough damage with these tanks at whatever we see to siege up the infantry, siege up their infantry, facilitate our own movements, and quite literally just keep pushing through here with these tanks in tow. And that is exactly what we are doing. So very, very good. Over here. Oh, all of these have moved, so we'll end the turn. So yeah, that HMG really needs to get shut down. Try to delay that later on. I think we actually managed to, where I think one of the tanks managed to secure a direct hit on that HMG. They turned around, so I want to say that they were looking at bailing there for a second. That would have been really nice. But either way, we'll get infantry over here to try to move up. Some of these guys are suppressed, so they definitely took something. Either way, get our guys moving there. 4 turns out of 15. Our guys are in a decent position to move forwards. Tank drives up the hill, puts fire. Oh, tank assault. We were lucky there. This tank would have been dead if it were not nicely, or if the chances would have turned not in favor of us, which is really, really good, because that keeps our guys alive. Our tank is literally inside the tile where these infantry units are, so we can pick that off really easily. Very, very good. I see another half track, so I just want to keep picking those off, and ideally make it really easy for our common reinforcements to clear the town from the other side. Right now, as I just want the first few shots to miss, that's fine, because the later ones hopefully will hit, build up our accuracy, and try to score some hits there. And I think the stug is still moving, so the stug isn't down. Perfect. Another half track goes down, and that should be another target smoked. Yeah, French infantry. So that's kind of... I think this is what actually assaulted the tank. They have some Gabout lug things. Those are some sort of rifle grenade, I think. Yeah, and again, we just want the tanks to put down enough fire early on here to try to smoke them out. That machine gun is going to be the death of all of these guys if we don't get them to move fast enough. Or if we don't get the tanks to charge that MG. The thing is that I really need these reinforcements to start to string through towards here. I can't do that exactly if we don't have enough movement over here. Ah, perfect. Managed to get a good shot, managed to smoke out that HMG. So now, I don't actually think there's anything covering this road at this point. So we are going to put this drive into overdrive, and get our units to reassemble on the road. This can go really well or really badly, and we are just going to try to march into town. Right, over here, I want to suppress the building well enough so that they won't try any funny business. Ah, well, never mind. This is what is firing at our tank, an anti-tank gun or rifle. Good thing about the AT gun there is that, like, a lot of the French tanks, they have a lot of armor for their time, so I'm not too terribly worried about those. I'm more so worried about putting down enough fire so that the tanks over here get out of their buildings. And once they get out of their buildings, we can deal with them really, really easily with the tanks. Yeah, once they pull back, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Probably shouldn't have moved that into... Oh! Holy! Thanks, this village is just crawling with Nazi infantry. Yeah, I don't really know what to do at this point. Like, because I really don't want to keep infantry who are ready near my tanks, because that is just asking for them to be taken out. But these guys are in retreat mode. Like, the thing is that, like, yeah, that Stug can't see us down here, which is nice. And I really want to put down as much fire as possible there. Because I can tell you the French infantry, they're not worth very much. They can move, they can't shoot. And their sole focus is that you can actually order the tanks to drive through buildings. The caveat being is that the building will collapse, and chances are is that the tank will get stuck. You can actually buy bulldozers for the express purpose of, like, you know, clearing them through. But anyhow, my point is that the infantry here are solely to cap objectives. Their morale is just so bad that if I tried to use them for anything else, we took out the AT gun or AT squad there, so that's not too bad. That they would lose 10 out of 10 times. So we really need the tanks to do just enough damage so that we can get some more movement through. Good thing is that we've taken a lot of their garrisonable reinforcements, so I hope nothing comes from there. There we go. Yeah, these tanks are really, really tough. Like, taking a look at the Stug, this Stug is actually gimped in the sense that we managed to get some shot out during the middle of the fighting here, in which the main gun got damaged. It'll appear as a star at the bottom there, indicating some sort of damage. Sometimes this will be crewmen, sometimes this will be the weapons on the tank, is kind of how the simulation goes, or sometimes it'll immobilize it. But we managed to get a good hit off, is the summary there, which neutralized one of the Stugs, turning it into a machine gun booth, which definitely makes them a lot less efficient. So there, this is kind of the French tank charge, if you will, surrounding lots and lots of infantry here. And you can probably tell that the smoke from the battlefield is actually kind of building up. It's getting quite thick, actually. So, that said, once the infantry come in here, they'll have good vision, or they'll have poor vision is one thing. Oh, the French infantry actually doing something this time. And we just want to keep pushing into here, really. Try to get as many shots as possible off. Typically, I don't bother moving the infantry, or getting the infantry to fire, because usually they're worthless. And over here, no, never mind. These Stugs are still armed. This 7.5 cm, this isn't some sort of machine gun. This is actually an actual cannon. It has 5 pen with AP, 6 with heat. So that is right up our alley in terms of defense. Good thing is that hopefully it'll miss, or it'll hit my tank in such a fashion that tank angling inside the game is actually just kind of a calculated dice roll, such that hopefully it'll happen, and hopefully my tank will be fine. In the meantime, however, I would just want these guys to stream on through. I don't really care too much about the tank firing at this point, because the road saves you so much movement points, provided that you don't have any blockages, if you will. There, and we'll get the show rolling. So with 5 of those char tanks going up against one of those Stugs, that should be very, very easy to fight. Up over here, I'm more or less concerned about losing one of my tanks, but the rest should be cleared. And we're starting to make the drive into the town now. We see some new foxholes that might be indicative of more enemies or something like that, but that is absolutely fine. And we shall continue to drive forwards. Let's see what we can pick off here. Boom! It actually did. I mean, it actually did the animation that time for some reason. Sure. And yeah, it did pick off one of our tanks and it disappeared. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Push out the infantry into this tank slaughter fest. And this is just a ball of destruction here. We are literally decimating the infantry here. Very, very good. We'll get some of the tanks to face over here now. I see that the hidden stug has reappeared. So that's pretty good. We can hopefully try to clear out another one of these houses and then get the big old tank over here, the Char B1, with Sabot rounds, which do 3 APCR, just enough to pen the side of this tank to come up right over here to try to do something. But oh no, that tank was also taken out. So yeah, that stug is definitely holding out. So that's fine and all. I just want to cap these buildings at this point. Yeah, because we want to get some of those victory points. There we go. That's one stug down there. Tanks to advance. Infantry go up the hill. And that is another turn done. So once we start converting a lot of these flags to French flags, that's kind of when we can call this mission a success. I know that one of these flags inside here, I did check this before recording, one of these flags are worth 4 of the rest of them. So that's kind of the main one we need to take. We'll try to figure out which one of them they are in a while. Anyhow, let's push forwards here and see what we can clear out. This tank is retreating. We'll get them to reduce suppression till they can fire. Till they have full range of fires, actually. This is pretty good. We just want them to put everything into that building to try to clear it out. That doesn't look like it's going to be enough, which really, really does suck. And we lost a char up here, to something. Oh. We hit it with an HMG. Should be able to button up the tank, but no pens. So that's that. Let's get our tank over here. Keep firing at the stug. Pin it down at the very least. No, they want to fire at our infantry, that's fine. And in a short amount of time, we are just going to get all of this infantry to join into the fight. The bad thing is that I really don't get why they structured the mission like this, but all of this infantry comes into effect very, very late into the battle over here. So we got a nice pickoff there, that's pretty good. Let's see, that tank is still around. I really need to flank the stug. Firing at stug, didn't do much, fire it again. Turn to face us. Oh, it actually took down one of my tanks. So yeah, that is quite a difficult place to fight through. And yeah, all of the French infantry here are going to rout. Really, really sucks. Makes their job a lot tougher than it needs to be. And we want the tank to fire again for pen using AP. Not enough to get through 50 millimeters layer of armor. And that is that turn done. So it looks like we're going again. Another trade-off of fires. It looks like we're firing at the bottom stug here. Some of the infantry here is getting engaged, and oh, they have a flak gun set up inside the alleyway here. The main thing is that like this is a really old game. That's kind of why it has the swastika graphics. They do give you the settings to change it is the thing, but nevertheless, I mean this was 2005 was the quote unquote game as it is, but like 1995 is kind of the original making of this game. So that said, yeah, it does feature the swastika. I think that's kind of surprising, I guess. We'll see whether or not we can hit it. Non-penetrating AP shot. I think we're doing a lot of crew damage at the very least. Yeah, there we go. There's another stug on fire. Perfect. So the infantry here should be cleared to make their move through the town. We have a fair amount of turns, so I want them to get ready for a bit of a wave tactic. I want them to assemble all along this road. These guys are all pinned, which really sucks because French infantry will take forever to become unpinned. Just get rid of this HMG. There we go. Main thing is I need to get all of these infantrymen moving ASAP. Not on the road as well. Get rid of that squad. No effect. Front of the stug hit. Clear up the smoke so that we can kind of see what's going on right over here. So AA gun probably shouldn't get through the or actually this is an artillery piece. This thing has, let's see, 5 pin with sabot rounds, which will not be which they're not armed with because they are artillery piece. That is pretty good. This is a hero tank right here. He's just picking off the infantry and everything here. That is clearing out so much for us. We have another tank here. We're going to reduce suppression so that it shoots a bit better. And we're going to get it to fire at the stug with 75% accuracy. Stug is immobilized. That is, for intents and purposes, a kill, even though we might lose another tank in the process. Stugs don't have a turret. They are stuck where they are, and therefore, once we get the turret to break, they are effectively dead. So they might kill off that one tank, the one tank that doesn't have enough movement points to get away in time. But if we can just get that tank to pull away, I mean, they're trapped in a lot of smoke and beside buildings. I highly doubt they can take that. And again, just tear about French infantry right here. Like, these guys just don't do anything, and the tanks do all the work. Yeah, so we can get them to pull out like that. This thing just can drive away now, and it'll be fine. We might get the infantry to... Oh my god, the infantry can't make... To give you guys an idea of how bad these infantry units were, was that they're trying to assault a broken down tank, and they couldn't do it. They actually took one casualty in the process. So yeah, we really need these tanks to do anything. So we'll get them to press forwards here. I mean, usually, like, if you fight, like, any decent force and you try to press through a town like this, like, you'll lose, mostly because your infantry or your tanks will get ambushed right and tight along the way here. But I can't really tell what is ambushing them. Right now, I'm just kind of pushing units through into that hole, granted. But the main thing is that I need to get a lot of these guys through, and on the miracle chance that they manage to stay alive long enough to shoot the German squad once, I hope to get them to retreat long enough such that when the rest of the dudes get over there, they can do some decent damage. But we're starting to clobber down on this section of the town. We got rid of the stugs, and that said, we're starting to make some progress. So I have a feeling that, you know, we're kind of closing on to the end of the video here. To that, I mean, again, this is a free game. If you check the description, if it's not there, refresh the page and it'll be there for sure. You can download this game for free. Granted, you won't see, you know, kind of this high resolution display. That's kind of the caveat of, you know, having the open source, the version of the game, for lack of a better term. And yeah, so that is that. One of the things is that I really want to rally these troops. Rally. Doo -doo -doo. Ooh, take a look at the buildings. Try to get these squads to rally. That squad's alright. Perfect. Okay, 2 casualties. That should keep this squad pinned long enough that we can get some infantry across. And it's really nice when you can push enemy retreating forces into your forces. Then it just becomes a slaughterhouse like here. That squad went from, I think, 10 men to 4 men in 3 minutes. So, very, very good. And again, like managing congestion on this road at this point, I just want some of these troops to press forwards and some of these troops to get onto this road so that they can move into the southern portion of the town really, really fast in due time. Because like right now, the infantry up here, they are just completely worthless. They cannot rally anymore. I don't really know what the Kobo wagon was all about, but sure, we'll take a easy picking. And my tanks have officially pretty much surrounded this tank with their vision at the very least. And yeah. Now the circle starts to close. Yeah, the thing about the game is that it actually has all of these factions fully featured. I believe there's a way to browse solely the units to give you guys a look into kind of what they have. I'm gonna clear up the smoke here so we can take a look at the clear picture of what is happening here. So we have one KH-79 tank here with no movement points. I think it's because, yeah, it's immobilized. I think this tank drove, I don't know, maybe I ordered it somehow to drive right through. Oh yeah, I thought it was the infantry, but I drove it through the building. Just like, because if you hold down shift, it ignores, you know, common movement orders, and I drove it through the building so I can capture the point. So that captures it, well, you know, it does what it says, and it took the point. Over here, it looks like we're taking some fire. Our guys are too suppressed to tell from where, though, but we figured it out. It's an infantry squad. For once, French infantry saves the day and manages to get enough fire onto that location so to cause a few casualties, hopefully making it easygoing for future squads to come over here and to take the area, because the rest of the infantry here require 1 turn to get up these ramps and another turn to get through these forests. But once they're through, they can start making their way through here, and the human wave begins, where we can get our guys to start pouring through the town and hopefully capturing a lot of the stuff. Kind of a risky move. I'll get this tank to sweep through the building line, see whether or not they can see anything else. Likewise over here, I'm gonna get them to use Z fire, so they'll fire on the tile instead of the individual units, hopefully getting a few shots to pin them down, or pin down anything that might be in that tile and adjacent tiles. Okay. Let's just try to wrap up here. Get the tanks to put down some more fire on whatever infantry they see. That keeps those guys pinned. Bring up a tank. Siege some of these guys in the open streets. Bring up this tank. Siege a lot more of them. And I mean, technically, like, you should probably be yeah, we should be a lot more careful with these tanks, because in infantry, if it was later in the war, and the game changes later on, because once the war kind of develops into, you know, Panzerschrecks and things like that, you really don't want to get your tanks trapped inside the middle of this. So yeah, luckily our currently they only have AT rifles or below, so we're able to pin them down, get the infantry to do its job. Charge over here, I see the commander still fighting back, and our infantry moves forwards for the assault, taking the frontal portion of this building section. Rest of the infantry starts streaming in, and at this point I think we've pretty much won, just given how much stuff we have here in the mix. So in the future, I don't actually know whether or not we'll do any more streaming of this game, and I'll say that straight up. Like so that includes things like the main battle tank game, mostly because it like being honest, it doesn't make too terribly good in terms of streaming material, just simply given kind of the nature of the game. Like I do have to play it without sound and all these kind of options like that, and with that kind of kept in consideration, like depending on like how much I can kind of engage you guys in the banter behind the game here, it can be a little slow is the main thing. And because it was a free game, you can download it is the main thing. So I bring it up, I mention it if this thing looks kind of interesting to you guys. Yeah, I do encourage you guys to download it. I mean, the free version is by no means unplayable. It's very, very playable. The main thing is that you get some things that definitely help out, aka the flight screen display, which I do really, really like. But apart from that, yeah, no, I mean it's orc withable. And it's a small download. I keep this on my laptop more or less because some of these scenarios are small enough that you can kind of run through in a short amount of time. Either way, it is turn 15 out of 15. This will probably take another turn to, or at the very least one turn to wrap up. What I want our guys to do here is at this point is just to stream on through to grab these buildings and to do their best in holding them. So it looks like the infantry from the broken half tracks, it looks like we didn't take all of them out, so they're starting to stream through now on the side here. This is probably not going to be something that we can hold on to, so what I want our guys to do is to actually just kind of sit in their current allotments. The game will probably give the Axis another turn or so, another couple of turns to try to take these locations, but we're going to sit back and we're going to let them smash themselves on these buildings pretty much. They're going to move forwards, they're going to take fire from the tanks. When they move into the buildings, they're going to move it. They're going to take reactionary fire from the infantry. Overall, long story short, this is going to be a very difficult place for any movement to happen at this point. Mostly because, I mean, our infantry are so bad that if we try to move them forwards, there's no way they're going to rally in time for them to do anything meaningful. And whereas for the German squads, like, it's just such a bad position to assault with the tanks firing as they move, with the infantry once they get close to the buildings, that this is just going to hold up. So yeah, I mean, even though it's an old game, even though it came out technically in 1999 or 2005, depending on how you want to, consider it, like they still make monthly, or not monthly, yearly updates to the game. They still release new campaigns. They still do a lot of stuff. They still add they add an entire system in terms of missions and stuff inside this game. So it's definitely still updated, but the thing is that it's very limited in what it is going to be updated with. They can't make any engine changes, unfortunately, so a lot of the times when people kind of say suggestions, from what I remember on the forums, the main thing is just like, if the engine can take it, they'll try to put it in, but if they can't, then, that's kind of the end of that. So yeah, there you go, 61 losses, 5 vehicles, 3 vehicles, 4 APCs, 174 losses there. So historically, if this broke through, well, a marginal victory, that's bullshit. Well, then the Germans would have had a lot more harder time reaching Paris. So yeah, that is the game at a glance. And oh yes, we can take a look at the encyclopedia. So we can sort this by a couple of ways. We can do current date, I guess. We can take a look at units at June 1944, so the time around D-Day. And we can take a look at, yeah, pretty much, say for example, all the units for, let's just take a look at Nazi Germany because they have the complete line. This thing has an entire database of all sorts of units. So you have your classic, Panzers, Stugs, Tigers, Panthers, if I hadn't said that already. And just in general, a ton of different vehicles. And these are fully realized too. Like a lot of stuff here. Flak guns, 88 millimeters, the flak Wehrlings, siege guns, MG42s, 43s, STGs, different infantry groups. So you got one armed with rifles, one's armed with STGs and Panzerfausts, pioneer groups of all types and of things, Volksgrenadiers armed with STGs, Pathfinders, Kampfgrad, like the little motorcycle dudes. Lots and lots of stuff. They even have, I would say, pretty fully featured planes that have a lot of, their armaments. Planes are typically one-time use things, though. Lots of flak, heavy flak like that. And like my main point is that this just goes on and on and on. So some Fallschirmjäger, Fallschirmjäger engineers, storm pioneers. This goes on and on and on. Some mountain infantry they have Panzergrenz, um, Brandenburg Special Forces infantry. Like my point being is that a lot of stuff is here. You've got captured tanks too from like the first world. Like yeah, these are actually the captured French tanks that we were playing with. So you can like they're pretty rare units for real life sake, but you can buy them inside the game. Just yeah, a lot of stuff like the weird mechanized infantry on the little tractors they have. I don't really know what they had. The stugs with the howitzers instead of the regular cannons, for lack of a better term, like flame wagons apparently, my cavalry units. My point is that yeah, this is just really, and this is for one faction, by the way. This is only for Germany, which by well like it's natural that they have a lot of consideration there, but yeah, I mean overall that is really fully featured. So to that, yeah, this is very very nice to kind of see in action. And oh yeah, Goliaths, you can buy individually. They blow up exactly how you imagine them to be. But yeah, like fully featured game. And oh yeah, by the way, that's at one time and point. If I switch this to like say for example, sorts all dates, and we're like set this to some other date. I mean, this will show different units, of course. So if we switch that back up, we can probably see some like conflicts, like Dicker Maxes. I have that tank at World of Tanks. Lots of stuff during different periods of the war too. So yeah, that just like increases this line even larger. You got the full Panzer suite over here, Panzer IVs, Panzer IIIs, and I'm sure there's Panzer IIs somewhere inside all of this. So anyhow, again, like it's quite a nice, well, World War II game. If you've enjoyed this video and have not yet subscribed, please do so for similar content like this. Although, full disclosure, I don't know whether or not we will be covering the modern game at Win SP MBT, so main battle tank, mostly because it's much of the same. It's a different time frame, nevertheless. But the main thing there is that I don't necessarily know if anyone would be interested in that. So this is kind of a one-off thing, but nevertheless, I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, it is a free download, and if you are joining us for the last section here, I encourage you guys to watch the video from the restart because there is a lot of stuff here. So to that, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream, and well, that said, I thank you for watching. I'll be inside the chat for a little bit of time if you guys have any messages, but that will be pretty much that. So, I hope to see you guys there if you would like to chat, but if you would not, well then, I wish you good night.